Hello. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? How's everyone doing today? Thank you so much for being here. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. And it looks like, and can you hear me? Hello, everyone. Yes, you can hear me. Perfect. All righty. So thank you so much for being here. I am excited to speak with Andrew Lownie today. And thanks to everybody who who is coming to the live today. And just before we get started, I want to thank Lizzie B for being here as always. You are amazing, Lizzie. I really appreciate you coming to all of my lives and moderating everything in the chat. Remember to like this video. As soon as you get here, please like the video. And remember to follow me on Facebook as I do videos on Facebook. And if you're new to my channel, maybe you don't know that. So all of my videos are also on Facebook and YouTube, but I do a little bit more on my Facebook with Otis. And you can also follow me on my Patreon, where I do videos there as well about my time in England, my visits with Lady C, and all that good stuff around royalty. So, and thank you also, Lizzie, for putting this up here too. If you want to donate to my charity, there's the link here. I work with underserved youth and provide them with very important and valuable life skills. So your support with that would be greatly appreciated. Or you may also enter our raffle. We're giving away tickets to the Columbus Zoo. Okay, so we are going to get started. And before I bring Andrew on, I just want to do a brief introduction. I'm sure a lot of you have already seen some of Andrew's interviews. He is the author of the book entitled The Rise and Fall of the House of York. Now, his background is he's been a bookseller, publisher, journalist, writing for the Times, Telegraph, Wall Street Journal, Spectator, Guardian. Since 1988, has run his own literary agency. He is the president and biographer of the Biographers Club. He sits on the board of Biographers International Organization and is a trustee of the Campaign for the Freedom of Information. Very valuable seat. His books include the prize-winning Stalin's Englishman, The Lies of Guy Burgess, and the top 10 Sunday Times bestsellers, The Mountbattens, Their Lives and Loves, and Traitor King, The Scandalous Exile of the Duke and Duchess of Windsor. So I'm going to bring on Andrew now. Hello, Andrew.
Hi, very nice to chat to you.
Hello, thank you so much for being here. I'm very excited about having you here today. I had put out some questions, actually given my subscribers the option to submit some questions to you. So we do have a few of those as well. But before we begin with that, I wanted to ask you one question just to kind of get us started today. And looking at everything that you have written about, I mean, you have a great background, of course. I mean, this is what you do, and I'm very inspired by your work. I'm actually currently listening to your book now. I haven't quite finished it yet, but I've gotten through a lot of it. When you look at your book and you describe the York story, right, the rise and fall, what is your view that marks the actual turning point of their decline? Because there's a long history, right, with the Yorks.
Yeah, I mean, I think, pretty soon after they got married in 1986, and there was an episode where they did this sort of charity event called It's a Royal Knockout, which kind of undermined that. It came across as very vulgar, and it kind of took away the mystique of royalty. And I think that was one point. The press kind of turned on particularly on Sarah Ferguson then, because she was seen to be taking advantage of her position. She was having lots of free holidays. She wasn't actually working very hard. So that probably is the turning point. But in some ways, the seeds of their disaster were sown really in their youth. Both of them were, I would argue, had no moral boundaries laid out for them. So they didn't play by the rules. They were very keen to mix with very rich people. And in order to do that, they had to somehow find some money. So I think it was an accident waiting to happen. But I think 87 is a key point. There's another point in 2001 when Andrew leaves the Navy. He doesn't have that discipline. He's kind of in the public arena, and he begins to have his sort of midlife crisis and goes off and chases women and does all sorts of things. So there's certain key points, but I think by their very nature, they were never going to play by the rules.
Right. Sarah as well, just learning about her past and her history, she seemed like just very rambunctious and out there. It just seemed like a disaster waiting to happen. Yeah. I mean, you'd almost think that they would have put a control on that in the early stages, considering what they were representing.
Yeah, well, it's difficult. How do you control someone like that? I think they just kind of hope that by mentoring them and by sort of there's a bit of supervision that they will just play by the rules. But I think very early on she could see that she could monetize her position in the royal family, make money for herself. She was selling stories to newspapers, photo opportunities, and she was very different from all the previous sort of members of the royal family. The irony is that she came from a background with a long tradition of royal service, and they thought that she would know how to behave, which she didn't.
That reminds me a lot of Meghan Markle, the things you're describing.
There are a lot of similarities. I mean, a bit like Meghan Markle, she was the outsider coming in that was going to sort of update the royal family, make them appear less fuddy-duddy. And I feel sorry for Meghan Markle, because Meghan Markle is only trying to do the things that Fergie has done for the last 40 years, sell her jam, be half in, half out. And they kind of gave some leeway to Sarah to do this, but didn't give it to Meghan Markle.
That's interesting. So do you think, looking at what Meghan is trying to do now, that she poses any kind of risk to the monarchy and what she's trying to do?
Well, I think when you see what Sarah and Andrew have done over the last 40 years, you kind of, what Harry and Meghan have done actually pales into insignificance. Okay, Harry wrote Spare, which was very critical of the royal family. They've done Oprah interviews, but so has Sarah. And, she's been pretty disparaging about the royal family at times. So it's a case, I would say, of double standards here.
Interesting. But we look at someone like Meghan now and her tenaciousness with her career in California right now, living outside the UK, doesn't want to ever come back to the UK. Do you think that perhaps maybe there could be something that could be detrimental, considering she's still trying to get her life as a Hollywood A-lister established while still having a title and a part of the monarchy, essentially?
Well, I mean, I think it's pretty clear that Meghan has decided to go back to the sort of her previous life. And I think it's very unlikely that she will remain a duchess. I think, there was a shot across the bows with Andrew. The title can easily be removed. And I think that's what either Charles or William will do, so that anyone who isn't a working royal, anyone who isn't the direct line of succession, will lose their title. I mean, it seems ridiculous to have these people with titles who do nothing. So I think she's kind of seen the way the wind's blowing, and she's going to go and do her own thing. And I think that's fine, and I think if people are not being seen to take advantage of their royal position to make money for themselves, then, she should be allowed to do her own career and basically cut loose. I mean, there is a long tradition of exile in the royal family. So that's what happened to the Duke of Windsor and Wallis Simpson. And there, the Duke would occasionally come back and visit his family in the way that Harry does, but Wallis Simpson never came back. And I suspect we'll see that with Meghan, that she will never really be embraced by the royal family now. but they will kind of do their odd thing with him quite quietly under the radar.
But Meghan really wants her title. I heard reports that she may be thinking about suing if it is taken away from her, which is crazy.
Yeah, I don't think that's a battle she can win. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, it's true that the York children, Princess Beatrice and Eugenie, I think should have their titles removed, and it would be in their own best interest. But they are marketing themselves, particularly in the Middle East, on the back of their titles. But they were at least born to it. I mean, Meghan just married in. She, it does seem slightly ridiculous that she's not a working royal, and yet she's trying to trade on that title. I think it can easily, by letters patent, be removed, and then she's going to look very foolish if she is claiming that she's going to sue for this. It's not America. It doesn't work that way in the royal family.
Interesting. Yeah, because we know that they say that William was working to remove Andrew from Royal Lodge. We see that has happened. He's lost his title. So you are thinking of the same thing as a lot of people, that they're probably working on removing that from Meghan. Do you think Harry as well, or it would have to be, right?
Yes, I mean, I think there's that message has been sent that it's perfectly easy to remove titles, and I think certainly Charles may not do it for the moment, but William almost certainly will do it when he comes to the throne. But there may be arguments for Charles to do this now, to basically clear the decks before William comes to the throne.
Okay. All right. So I have a question from one of my subscribers. Tracy is asking this question. Did Our Late Majesty really know the full extent of Andrew's parties and the stuff staff had to put out, like condoms, lube, puppets, all things? She doesn't think so, the subscriber. What do you think?
Yes, I mean, I think that was one of the most shocking things I found in my research, that the Queen would have had people reporting to her, protection officers, the master of the household, all sorts of people. So she ran a pretty tight ship. She knew exactly what was going on. And she was getting on. She may have put her head in the sand. She may not have wanted to sort of deal with this, but she knew exactly what was going on. I know from talking to people that people reported all sorts of things to her private secretary, and they were sort of battered away. And those private secretaries, of course, would have reported to the Queen. So I don't think there's any doubt that she knew exactly what was going on. People may not want to believe it, like your subscriber, but that's the fact.
Interesting. Okay. Now, there are some claims that you got a lot of legal pushback, or there were some required revisions of your book. How did that process shape the book or your responsibility as a biographer?
Well, we didn't really get much legal pushback. I mean, the book was read by the legal people. We went through, I think, 18 different proofs to make sure that it was pretty legally soundproof. We had two people who complained. One was Prince Harry, who disputed that he had gotten into a fight with Andrew. I stand by my sources, but we decided it wasn't worth having a fight with Harry, who has a long tradition, as you know, of suing people, has a long tradition of getting into fights with people. And so we just took that thing out. I mean, this is a throwaway line in a book of 140,000 words. Same with Donald Trump. He complained about a reference to Melania sleeping with Epstein before she met Trump. Absolutely true. But again, the publishers, and it wasn't my decision, I would have fought it, but the publishers took the decision, take it out. Life's too short to get into a fight with Donald Trump, because even though we would have won it, it would have been time-consuming and expensive. I wish they had fought it. I would have liked to depose President Trump, because a lot of very embarrassing information could have come out. But anyway, I'm in the hands of the publishers. They're paying the legal costs, so I have to obey them. But people have then tried to use it to undermine the credibility of the book. Well, these are two references which are entirely true. I stand by them entirely. Two lines in, say, 140,000 words. Everything else is nothing else is being challenged, and you can see there's some pretty sensational allegations that are made. And if people were they weren't true, I would be in trouble. But no one has even tried it.
Interesting. Okay, so many of the book's revelations involve institutional cover ups and privilege. What do you believe your book entitled ultimately says about, if anything, the modern monarchy?
Well, I think it says that it needs to reform, and I hope they are now going to reform. That Andrew, in some ways, has been the savior of the modern monarchy because by his bad behavior and I think the public pressure that he should be held accountable for that, they're realizing that they do need to adapt to the 21st century. They are going to be more, they have to be more accountable and transparent. The way the arrangement works is there's a contract between the people who basically pay for the royal family and the royal family. We allow them all these privileges as long as they kind of do their job and they aren't trying to make money for themselves off the back of it. And the problem with the Yorks is they broke that covenant.
Right. But isn't that what Megan's trying to do still? Right? Make
Well,
money.
that's why I say I feel sorry for her, because there were double standards and they were allowed to be half in, half out, which is what she wanted. But, you know, I don't support what Megan said wants to do, because I think you have to make a decision. Are you going to be basically a working member of the royal family, support the institutions, and be above any sort of criticism because you're working in the interests of the institution? Or do you think that you can get the benefits of being a member of the royal family and use those to sell your jam? And that's never been the deal. They somehow allowed Fergie to do that, I think perhaps because she was divorced. But that doesn't excuse Meghan Markle. You can't have it both ways.
Right. You cannot.
I mean, there are
Now,
plenty of people in the royal family. I mean, I'm just thinking of the Duchess of Kent, who left the royal family and went off and became a music teacher and did a lot of good work.
mhm.
But, lots and lots of younger members of the royal family are not working royals, and they have their own careers, and they're left to get on and make their own money, as long as and they're not bringing the family into disrepute. The problem with Meghan is that she wants to basically monetize her royal status
Mhm.
and make money for herself.
Absolutely. Have you heard of anything about Harry wanting to come back to royal life? Um,
Yes, I think Harry realizes that he's been born to this life. I think he was very good at it, and
mhm.
in many respects. And I think it's a tragedy that he didn't stick with it. Uh, um, and who knows what will happen? I think he will have his charities that he does, like Invictus. There will be some sort of semi-detached relationship with the royal family, but clearly he's burnt his boats with his brother. His father may want to have some rapprochement, but there's trust has broken down, and they just can't risk bringing him back into the fold, because each time they do that, he seems to leak information to the press.
Well, do you think the king is actually trying to help Harry coming back? I mean, I heard some things about the king helping Harry still. Like he just had this Canada trip, this last minute surprise trip in Canada. Do you think he's getting support from the king in some kind of way?
Well, I think the king certainly wants to reconcile with his son before he dies, and that's a perfectly normal thing. I think they can see that there may be, they're testing the waters, I think, and seeing if
Mm.
there are roles that can be found in the way they're testing for roles for Beatrice and Eugenie. So they haven't cut them adrift from the royal family there with the two daughters. They're seeing if there's a way that they can still be part of the institution. But I think that's a very dangerous road. I mean, I do agree with the Queen that, you can't do it in a half-hearted way. You either make a commitment to this. It's like a marriage. You can't be sort of half in, half out. You just commit to the
Right.
marriage.
That's interesting because what do you think that could look like if King William would be trying to do what King Charles is doing? I don't think that would be the case. I mean, I don't think William would be happy about Harry trying to bring him back.
Exactly. And I think this is where the tensions, exist between father and son.
Okay.
And they need to kind of sort those out. And we're in a position where we're in a transitional phase. William is calling more of the shots.
Hmm.
He's having to step up to the mark to cover for his father, who's not well. And I think it would be very foolish of Charles to push things through against William's wishes when there is in effect a sort of dual monarchy going on at the moment.
Hmm. Now, you talked about some of the things that Andrew did in the past. I mean, he couldn't have done a lot of the things that he did unless he had people helping him, people that worked for him. Do you think that there will be any consequences for people that may have allowed Andrew to do some of the things that he did, although not really illegal, but he had help with a lot of the things that he was.
Yes, he was protected and enabled. I mean, right up to the
Mhm.
present day. So, I mean, even at the Duchess of Kent's funeral, I mean, he had an escort of police bringing him from Windsor, and someone authorized that. People authorized the helicopter rides and the jets, and helped organize the trips where he met dodgy businessmen. So, absolutely, the cover up of the cover up is one of the sort of worst bits of it. Whether those people will be held accountable, I don't know. Again, he's the low-hanging fruit who's been everyone's focusing on him, but he couldn't have got away with these things without their support. The problem is that everyone felt they had to report to him. He had the protection of his mother, and protection officers were told, well, if you don't basically follow his instructions, you will lose your job. Ambassadors who complained found that their postings were some pretty terrible places. So it goes right to the top, and if the Queen and indeed Prince Philip had sent out a different message, then Andrew wouldn't have been able to get away with it.
Right, right. I'm surprised to see that Fergie has left Andrew. She's going away, I heard, to Portugal. Have you heard that?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I mean, it was always very much marriage convenience. She hung in there while he was in Royal Lodge and was a member of the royal family. As soon as he's in trouble, she's off. She's going to try and reinvent herself. She wants to distance herself. She's quite happy. I mean, she was deeply involved with Epstein, but he's taking the flat because of the Virginia Giuffre case. So I think it's just a very cynical operation. Andrew has served his purpose, and she's off to rebrand herself, and I suspect that'll be what happens with Meghan Markle as well.
You mean separated from Harry, possibly?
Yes, I think there will be some stage where she and Harry are no longer living together, and she's pursuing her own independent ambitions without him.
Interesting. Have you heard anything from sources that could, I don't know?
Well, I mean, there are lots of people who gossip about it. I mean, there's no evidence, to show that. But you get the sense that they are, shall we say, on different life paths. So that he doesn't certainly look very happy.
Yeah, because I'd noticed that whenever they're out, there's always some kind of controversy with them, and it has to be because they are not really getting along, but they're trying to look like they are aligned in purpose, as I say on my channel. But it always seems to be an issue with whatever they do together. So to me, it points to there's problems right now in the marriage where they are just giving it some time before they make it official. Is that what you think as well?
Well, they've got young children, and that's always a very strong factor. A bit like Fergie didn't want to give up her links to the royal family while they served her. I think that both Harry and Andrew were looking for strong women. I mean, in some ways, substitute mother figures.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think who knows what's going on in terms of the relationship, but I don't from the outside, doesn't seem to be a very happy relationship. And I think they have very different agendas, both of them now.
Absolutely. Okay. So a subscriber, Deborah, has this. It's a few couple paragraphs here. So she's a Canadian living in the U.S. and she has followed the royal family her whole life. She has this teacup collection to prove it, and she's currently reading your book entitled. And she finds it fascinating, but it's a bit very dense work, she says. She also finds it disheartening, and here are some of her questions. There are so many abuses of taxpayer money. So why wasn't this questioned earlier? Let's just go ahead and stop and maybe answer that question first.
Well, I mean, she's absolutely right. I mean, there were criticisms in the papers, right from the beginning about the abuse of taxpayers' money on these trips. The problem was that the Parliament, there was a convention that Parliament didn't actually ask any questions about the royal family. The media were pretty deferential. So, some papers would raise this, but it was never actually pushed any further. And the royal family took the view that until there was, a real well of opinion against these things, they would just carry on as they were. And I'm afraid that's, exactly what's happened recently. They could have dealt with Andrew years ago. They could have dealt with him even weeks ago, and they wouldn't have, in some ways, had the snowballing of demands that are now happening with people wanting more royal scrutiny and accountability. So it's always a little too little, too late. And it's not helping the monarchy, because it reduces this element of trust and respect. And I think they just misread the public mood time and time again.
Because you kind of answered this, but she said, do you think the Queen was in denial? After all, from what she has read, the Queen was also very frugal in many ways. And the same with the Princess Royal. You would see her wear clothing that she wore several decades ago. So
yes, I mean, Andrew and Fergie are very different from the rest of the royal family, who as they have this tradition of service, who live pretty modest lives, certainly not extravagant. Mix actually with I don't mix with a lot of the sort of people that Fergie and Andrew mix with, which is sort of and Harry and Meghan do, a sort of blingy society. They have their own long-term friends, very tight circle. And that is the sort of model that we've got used to with the monarchy, that we can look up to. So Harry and Meghan and Andrew and Sarah Ferguson are kind of exceptions to the rule. Everyone else kind of knows how to behave.
She goes on to say that she finds it hard to follow after she put the book down and then picked it up again. So in the paperback version, would you consider putting in like a timeline for reference to text?
Well, I'm sorry she's finding it difficult, hard going. I had lots of short chapters. Everyone else has talked about how accessible and readable it is. It is written pretty much in a chronological fashion, with the odd thematic bits stuck in. I've tried to make it as accessible as I can, but at the same time, without assuming too much knowledge, at the same time, I am making a case for their bad behavior. It has to be backed up with evidence. And I don't quite understand what she's hoping for. It's kind of all there, I think. I mean, the chronology is pretty clear.
Because she says that she'd love to see some dates and some flow with events, and then a metric like number of royal events on duty versus days on vacation, off duty, and after an alphabetical reference list for all the personages involved.
Well, I do introduce the people. I mean, she can always look them up if she doesn't know who they are. Their dates pretty much on every page. So, I think she's wanting a different book to the book I wrote, I'm afraid.
Yeah, she's just saying it's a lot of history there, right? So it's a lot to put into a book, and I'm sure there's a lot of things you possibly left out that you couldn't put in, right?
Well, I only used about 1/10 of the material I researched, but it is a history book. It's I can't give everyone what everyone wants, clearly,
Right.
But I think it's just judging from the reviews and the reception, I have given people a pretty good view of this marriage and of the two of them and how they've abused their position.
Absolutely. And she says, thank you for being brave and having the integrity to publish this work, Deborah. So thank you for answering these questions. Someone wanted to also know about Andrew. And there's a lot of rumors about Andrew knowing Meghan prior to meeting Harry. Is there anything you've heard about that?
I've found no evidence to support that. I've not found them any evidence of them moving in the same circles. So, and when things are quoted that I see, they're often, for example, photographs of completely different events and of people, not of Meghan. So I think this is just a fantasy.
Fantasy, okay. So do you believe that Andrew and Sarah have a realistic path to public rehabilitation, or is their legacy largely fixed now?
Well, I think people are going to find it very hard to forgive both of them for their links with Epstein and the fact they've lied about it, the fact that they have basically taken the taxpayer for a ride for 40 years. But, Sarah has come back. She was caught selling access to Andrew in 2010 and somehow went on Oprah and everyone forgave her. I think they were both deeply immoral people and they deserve what's come to them. but there will always people who will buy into their victimhood and feel they should be given another chance.
Yeah, well, I think Sarah, she's made so many mistakes. You would think at one point she would have not been so careless with her life, her legacy, considering she wanted to be the best mother. I mean, she and Andrew were like trying to be the best of friends to help their daughters, but I think they've gone completely backwards in trying to help their daughters, because I think there's a lot of I disdain, or I think it has hurt the girls, Eugenie and Beatrice. Would you say the same?
Well, I've never bought into the fact they were good parents. I mean, the children were actually brought up by nannies and policemen because neither parent was around. Sarah was in America making money, and Andrew was away in the Navy. And so, I mean, I think that the fact that girls are well adjusted has nothing to do with the parents. But the parents have basically helped the children. They've introduced their business contacts for them. They took the children on these taxpayer-funded trips. And I'm not sure they've done the children much good, because, I mean, their careers have been built on the back of these contacts. But they are, certainly in Britain, they are deeply suspect. There are a lot of skeletons there which will emerge about both daughters. Talking to people, for example, parents at the schools that kids went to, the parents were never there. So, this is just one of the myths that's been created by Sarah Ferguson. Her own mother wasn't very good. She disappeared when she was 13 and went to live abroad with her new husband. And I think Sarah's kind of tried to make up for that by claiming to be a good parent and being very generous and things. But I'm not sure she has. I mean, she was introducing her children to the most unsuitable people. I mean, many of them sex offenders. She went there as soon as Jeffrey Epstein came out of prison to sort of welcome him. And she just has a completely different set of values, I would say, to most parents.
But I think it is admirable that she and Andrew tried to maintain a good relationship for the sake of the girls. That's what I mean. But yes, I've heard those things too about what they've exposed their daughters to. You also mentioned that some things will come out possibly about Eugenie and Beatrice, and I've heard some things that they have been a part of as well. What do you think is going to be coming out about the girls?
Well, I mean, the deal for Andrew moving out of Royal Lodge was that the girls would be protected, they would keep their titles, they would be allowed to operate within the royal family, kind of half in, half out, the sort of thing that Meghan hasn't been allowed to do, to have their careers, but also to have some royal duties, whether it's going to a garden party or, as we found today, with one of them involved with Outward Bound, which her father was involved in and her grandfather. I think the problem is that they're also involved with promoting Saudi banks. There are certain charities that they are sort of paid to deal with. And once those stories begin to emerge, the fact that, for example, one of their charities, Eugenie's charity, the Anti-Slavery Collective, hasn't actually given out any money to help people, that's going to, reverberate back against them. And I think that's why I think it's very... Charles needs to be very careful about embracing them too closely.
So do you think that will change when William is king, the relationship with the girls? And
yeah, I think William wants a much more slimmed down monarchy. He's not going to have to deal with Andrew in the same way, make promises. He's going to, I think, remove titles from those who are not working royals or in the direct line of succession. So they will, I'm afraid, be cast aside. I can see the arguments. We haven't got enough young royals to do all the jobs. But the fact is they do have careers. They are trading off their royal status in the way their parents did. And that could be potentially very embarrassing for the royal family.
Wow. So I think at this point, you just don't know what's going to come out. Like there's just things that are going to happen that no one knows what it is. Do you think the monarch knows, they know what's going to be uncovered eventually?
Well, I think they know some things, but you never know what's going to come from left field, stuff that hasn't been told to you. I mean, Andrew wasn't honest with the Queen or with King Charles about his links with Epstein, so this is their nervousness that they just don't know what's going to come from left field. So it's better to cut, as they have done with Andrew, totally loose to avoid any future embarrassment.
Okay, so do you think that you might end up doing a book on Meghan and Harry? What's the future?
No, I don't. I mean, I work with documents, so I'm going to do Prince Philip next. It's easy to do dead people. I don't have the connections to do a Harry and Meghan book. I mean, Tom Bauer has just delivered his second volume on them, so there are plenty of people who've written about them. Lady Colin Campbell, I think Andrew Morton, who've got much better connections than I have. So I like to deal with historical figures and with documents. So I'm going back in time.
You're going back in time. Now, I've been always a Princess Diana a fan. Is there anything that, just out of curiosity, that you have uncovered or that you would like to share about her?
Well, there's a book that I'm involved with, just wearing my publisher's hat, which has just been published this week for the 30th anniversary of the interview she gave to Panorama, called Diana-rama. And that has a lot of very interesting new revelations about how she was basically lied to by the BBC and Martin Bashir, how she was persuaded to do this clearly very controversial interview. So I think that is shedding quite a lot of new light on Diana, and painting her in a rather more attractive light than she's perhaps been presented in the past. Someone who's misled, who lost, I would say, her wisest advisor, Patrick Jeffson, her private secretary, because Bashir had pretended that he was basically leaking information about her. So that, I think, book, which is, as I say, literally just coming out, will have a lot of new insights into Diana.
Okay. Do you know about when it will be out?
Yeah, it's out now. It's just been serialized. The publication date, I think, is next week, but I think you can buy copies now from Amazon. It's called Diana-rama.
Okay. Does it talk about anything about her death and what happened?
Well, I think it argues that, if she hadn't had this experience, hadn't cut loose from her security, hadn't got rid of people like Patrick Jeffson, she wouldn't have died in the tunnel. I mean, people like Tom Sykes, who's a journalist, has just done a long piece about the death, questioning actually what may have happened. And people clearly, still are looking at the death and questioning some of the accounts of what happened. So, that debate still goes on. I mean, there's still a lot of anomalies about her death.
Yeah, like there were no working cameras in the tunnel. There was just so many different things that never, for me, I never got answers to. That just seemed odd to me that there were no working cameras.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are arguments on both sides. Very difficult to stage a sort of murder like that. But as you say, lots and lots of strange things happened. And sometimes in life, strange things do happen. But I agree. It seems to me more than a cock up, and which is why we need to have all the files released, and maybe people will emerge with new information.
So let me just look and see other questions that I may have for you. Have you heard anything about Meghan's products? Have you, I don't know, has anyone sent you any of her products?
I've not tried them. I mean, people don't seem to like her rosé. It's not up there with Gwyneth or who is it? Several people have got some good rosés. I haven't tried a jam. It seems very expensive. I mean, I've read articles where they compare them to other celebrity products. I have tried Sarah Ferguson's various products, and I have to say they're not very good. So there needs to be a bit more quality control, certainly with her stuff.
Okay. Do you think that when you talked about Bashir, will there be any consequences for him? Because it seems like what he did should be prosecuted.
Yes, I think he should be prosecuted. And I think the BBC should also have some sort of, should be dealt with. Because, I mean, they just lied. They lied in the courts and they lied to the press. But, that's not the way it works. And, of course, Bashir is hidden behind mental health problems. And people haven't got the energy to pursue him, but he has got away. I mean, the extraordinary thing is he was promoted and given new jobs when people knew he'd behaved very badly and deceived people.
Mm.
But we don't live in a perfect world, and people do get away with bad behavior, unfortunately.
Yeah. So someone here, Andra, is asking, what about the stories of Andrew being abused at school? I think that had a lot to do with his behavior later in life.
Yes, I think the sex addiction comes from being abused at school. I mean, it's come from one good source. I'd like to get more information on it, but this idea that he was taken off to a brothel at the age of 11 or 12, and he was quite advanced physically, but not emotionally. I've talked to people. I mean, it's not uncommon in a particular aristocratic society to do that. I think for most of us, it seems a very strange thing to do. But I think it would explain his need for constant sexual gratification, his inability to sustain relationships. And I just love, some more information to come to hand to perhaps, fill that bit out. I kind of dropped it in the hope that that might just encourage people to come forward.
Hmm. Yeah, now this is a good point from Naomi. Megan did cry racism. Why would she want to be half in and half out? Why do you think that would even be an option for her if she's seeing their racist family?
Well, I don't think the royal family are racist. I think that's lots of people have said that, but from my own knowledge and experience of them, I think that's not at all true. I think she's people didn't like her for good reason. But exactly, they want to be private, and yet they're constantly actually being very public in the way they behave. And I think that's why people just don't like them and trust them. They're having to have their cake and eat it. She thinks that she can change an institution which is 1,000 years old as an outsider, and that's not the way it works. I'm afraid you kind of have to just obey the rules. And people like Catherine and Sophie Edinburgh have understood that, and they work very well within the institution and are very popular and do a great job. I'm afraid Meghan, failed to understand that, and it probably is better that she isn't involved, because I don't think she was ever going to actually work, given the system it is. It's an institution that has been tried and tested. It's worked, and it's not something that you can change as a single outsider.
Well, I thought that the royals, especially the queen, the late queen, she gave a lot of extra things for Meghan in terms of what they hadn't done for Catherine, like allowing her to go to Sandringham before she was married to Harry. I mean, don't you feel that she was giving a lot of, I guess, privileges that were not afforded other past girlfriends?
Yes, exactly. I mean, there were a lot of concessions to her, and I think there was a great sense that she could be a breath of fresh air in the way that they thought Fergie might be. And there was Charles, who was came to escort her up the aisle. She was able to very much shape her wedding service in a way that other brides haven't. So I think they tried really hard, and she kind of wanted more than they could really give, and I think it's very sad. There could have been a role for her, but I'm afraid with Meghan, it's she's not a great team player.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think about the award that they got for racism in the States? I mean, Harry says his family's not racist, but they picked up an award for literal racism within, the family. I think that says there that they believe that, even Harry, and he's trying to say that he doesn't think his family is racist. They got an award, right?
Well, people give awards for the most bizarre reasons.
But
Doesn't
they
mean
accepted
people.
it, right? They
Doesn't mean.
accepted the award.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, I suppose if I was given an award, I might accept it, even though I didn't feel I earned it.
Really?
Well,
I know.
probably not.
I would never take an award that I didn't feel I earned or that was appropriate.
No,
I just think
I
it's
agree.
wrong.
Well, it doesn't reflect very well on them. It doesn't reflect, I would say, very well on the people who gave the award. Because I just don't think, from my own knowledge, that the royal family are racist.
Yeah.
And I don't think they were racist towards Meghan. I think she's just played that race card in a very cynical way.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that. Now, what do you think about the future reign of William? What that will be like?
Well, I mean, I hope that if they can clean the stables of this corruption which they have at the moment, so that he has a clean slate when he comes to the throne, I think it could be a very exciting time. He's a young king, for a start, with a young family, born of a different generation, with different ideas, a modernizing king, with a very popular, intelligent wife, who I think could be a great queen. I think they've been great parents. They've got lovely children. I think there's a really bright future for the royal family. But they do need to, and this is what he wants to do. They do need to clean out the corruption that is there at the moment. He's like a new CEO who wants to just basically start afresh. And I think if he's able to do that, then I think the monarchy will flourish. It will be seen to reflect a modern society, and it will continue to do great work, whether it's soft diplomacy, soft power diplomacy, or the pastoral role that it plays in the way it unites the nation. So as a monarchist, I'm a great fan of the monarchy, and I think I feel very sorry for the members of the royal family who've been undermined and betrayed by the behavior of Sarah and Andrew.
So do you think that King William's reign will be more about family, health, and then comes the work of the monarchy? Is that how you see that happening, to find a balance?
Well, he didn't expect to come to the throne as young as I suspect, will come to the throne. I think anyone would have wanted their children to grow up before placing on them the responsibilities they've got. George was at the Remembrance service last Saturday. You want to protect your family until they're grown up, and I think he's not really been able to do that because his father's illness. So I can understand he's trying to make the most of his time with his family, because he knows that time will be more limited in future. But I don't doubt that he will be a very dutiful king when the time comes.
Mm-hmm. Now, you kind of touched on this, but I want to kind of go back to it again, because Meghan knew Eugenie before she knew Harry, is what I've heard. What information did you discover while researching the Yorks, the relationship between Eugenie and Meghan? There was.
Well, I didn't really deal with the children much. I mean, I was told just to focus on the parents. So I haven't really researched Eugenie. I mean, I've seen the reports about the friendship and Soho House and Marcus Anderson and Ron Burkle and all these connections. Mm-hmm. And I think when I do an update of the book, I will look at that a bit more, because clearly there's some interesting connections there. They all slightly swam in the same sort of waters. This is a sort of group of aristocratic, very social people the same age, and it's not surprising that there should be connections, people meeting each other. But I haven't seen any hard evidence of Andrew or Fergie knowing Meghan Markle before she met Harry.
Okay, you mentioned Ron Burkle, right? Now, I know that Meghan knew Ron Burkle, or knows him. Can you tell us anything about Ron Burkle?
Well, I mean, there are connections. There are connections there between Ron Burkle and Andrew, for example. Mm-hmm. But again, Ron Burkle made it his business to know these sort of people. Soho House was very popular. So there are lots of people, they can know each other in separate ways. Doesn't mean that everyone knows everyone else. But yes, there's certainly some interconnecting networks. Very difficult to prove unless you've got pictures of them together or testimony from first hand from people who have seen them together. And even if they're seen together, it doesn't mean they're friends. So I think that there is a danger. You put 2 and 2 and make 5. And I haven't found evidence. I mean, if people can provide the evidence, I'm very willing to look at it. But no one has found anything beyond circumstantial links.
So you interviewed, it was over 100 people, or someone's saying here 400 people for the book.
Well, I interviewed about 300 people of the 3,000 people that I contacted. And I think probably there are about 150 on the record. So, a much higher percentage of people than you would normally interview for a royal book. Certainly many more on the record, and many more are coming on the record for the paperback. So I think that kind of helps add to the sort of authority of the book, that we have people prepared to go on the record talking about some of these things.
Hmm. Okay. What are your opinions about King Charles?
Well, I feel sorry for him. I think he was a great Prince of Wales. He did some great stuff with the Prince's Trust. He was prepared to sort of push, sometimes in controversial areas, but I mean, he's been shown, for example, in the environment and complementary medicine, to sometimes be ahead of his time. He's done a lot of good work with architecture, charities, and I think it's very sad that he won't have long as a king, because I think he could have been a great king. Actually, I think he's reined in his tendencies to write letters and be political. He is a very, very hard worker. He has been a united figure, very good at bringing all four nations of the United Kingdom together. I think he is a king for all the people. That's why I say I don't think he's racist at all. I think he's done terrific work for all the communities in Britain, particularly through the Prince's Trust. And I think that's why I think it was such a sad thing that was said, because of all the people, I think the royal family have done their best to bring communities together and to get rid of prejudice. And making those sort of comments only adds to division, which when they've tried to bring people together.
Have you heard about the conflict between the king and William? I know that we mentioned it earlier a little bit, but is it a pretty strong conflict that they're faced with right now? Because it seems like there are some things that William wanted to distance himself from his father.
Yeah, I think inevitably, we're in a transitional phase. I think William is calling more of the shots, and he will have a slightly different view of things. I mean, they are very, very different generations. I mean, Charles is 77 today. William is in his 40s. And, I just know from my own children, I mean, we have very different views about things. But I think they both have been tutored by the Queen, for example, have this strong sense of duty. I think William's been brought up to understand what he has to do. I think William probably is a more ruthless character than Charles, who doesn't like confrontation. I think he would be tougher on Andrew if he was able to do that if he was on his own. I think he has a slightly different conception of the monarchy, rather less pomp than Charles. But each king will come to it with bringing their own views and talents. And that's inevitable. You're not going to have them all thinking exactly the same. So I think it's almost a creative tension, and that's fine. I think that they've been brought together, partly joined by Harry and the problems of Harry and Andrew. And I think I know that Charles is very, very fond of Catherine, for example, and that's been a very strong united bond. He's very fond of his grandchildren. So I think those tensions can sometimes be overstated.
Well, speaking of grandchildren, how is this going to work with Harry and his children? I heard that he may try to start coming back to the UK with his children. What are your thoughts around Archie and Lily?
Well, I mean, I think the king would like to see his grandchildren, so I think that no one would want to keep them apart. I mean, we've got two things here: the constitutional element and the private. And I think everyone who has families would see that was actually a good thing for grandparents to see their grandchildren, grandfather see his grandchildren. I think that there's very little likelihood of Archie and Lilibet being working royals, or indeed continuing to have their titles. And this is what's so weird, that Meghan is so keen on these titles when she doesn't really want to be part of the institution.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy as well around the children. And there's no real evidence of Meghan and their certificates, the birth certificates and things of the children. Is that something that you think will be looked at later, especially when it comes to them having titles?
Yes, I mean, I think there are a lot of very strange questions around the birth, and clearly people have looked at that. I mean, there are legal constraints on what one can say. Again, it seems a very strange thing when you're in the public eye to have hidden, to have a secret, if the secret is true. So I haven't really looked at this. I mean, I'm not a Harry and Meghan expert. My book is about Andrew and So it's only what I've read. But there are a lot of unanswered questions certainly around the children. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we see that Andrew is in pretty much exile. He is out. He is, I don't know, what is he going to do? What do you think his life is going to be like now?
Well, I don't think it's going to be that different. He's going to still be able to do his business activities. He's going to have a slightly smaller house. He won't have, I think he will have people curtsying and bowing to him and calling him sir, but they're just, only at home. I think he's got away pretty lightly, actually. I do think there's quite a good chance that he may be charged with criminal offences. And that's when life may get difficult for him. And that's when I think he may basically run away to the Middle East to avoid those charges.
Wow, well, that to me sounds like why maybe Sarah has left Andrew. I mean, she had been so loyal to him for so long. You would think that she would still be loyal to him even without the title and what he has lost. So you think that could have been her motivation to want to like distance herself from Andrew?
Well, possibly. I mean, she knew a lot of the things that he may be charged with. I mean, there were no secrets there. They were very, very close. And it didn't worry her before. I mean, they were working hand in glove, for example, and selling access to him. So, I mean, nothing really has changed in his behavior. It's just he's been caught. And that may be a factor. I think she's just decided to kind of go off and reinvent herself, that clearly there's no advantage in staying with him now. And she can do better without him. So it kind of puts into question all these remonstrations of loyalty to him over the years. And what an honorable and great man he was. I mean, but we've seen that with Epstein. She would say one thing in public, but actually we would know what her views were in private, which were very different.
But wouldn't she run the risk of also being prosecuted, considering how much she worked with Andrew hand in hand?
Yeah, I think there's a good case for her to be a material witness for the Epstein case. I mean, to make herself available to the lawyers.
Yeah.
I think there are a lot of questions about the way she mixed charity and business. And I think if there were investigations, I think there may be a case for her to be also charged with various offences. But, there are more obvious things for him because he had this role in public life as a trade envoy. So we have this misconduct in public office. We have evidence of him trying to basically persuade public officials to break the law. So that various things which are offences, which we have a lot of evidence for, I think it'll be slightly more difficult to construct a case against her because it's much more difficult to prove some of the things that she was doing.
Well, we do know that they kept Sarah close during the time when she started to come back to the royal fold back in 2002 after the Queen Mom's death, because they knew that she knew so many secrets. I find it shocking that she has somewhat been thrown away now. The royal family or the crown has not said anything about what they will do for Sarah. They just leave her to go do whatever she wants. And I think that is running the risk of her possibly writing a book or exposing secrets now. I mean, they were concerned at the beginning, but not now.
The Crown have no responsibility for Sarah Ferguson. I mean, she's been divorced from Andrew for almost 30 years. And she's been basically squatting with him in Royal Lodge. And if she wants to go and squat in the house in Sandringham, I mean, no one is going to stop her doing that. She's chosen not to do that. I don't think she's going to write a book. I mean, they would put a lot of pressure on her children, and it would make their life very difficult if she was to do so. I think there's a good chance that she will leak information to the press or other writers, which may prove damaging and embarrassing. But, she's very good at playing the long game. She's threatened this on countless occasions. She's threatening it at the moment. But these are just negotiating tools and trying to get a better deal from the royal family. She tried to renegotiate her divorce, even though she had quite generous terms. She's doing the same now, trying to get them to house her, to pay her some sort of stipend, to keep her quiet. But this is just blackmail, and I think they're not really buying it.
Okay, so she is trying, but it's not going to work.
I don't think it's going to work. I think they've had enough of Sarah Ferguson and her antics.
Okay. All right, Andrew Lowney, thank you so much for speaking with me today. I appreciate you taking the time out and answering some of my subscribers' questions.
Pleasure. Well, very nice to talk to you and your subscribers.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. Have a good one.
Thanks a lot. Bye bye.
Bye bye. All right, everyone. So I hope you enjoyed my talk with Andrew Lowney. I found it very informative. And I did see in the chat that there were some, you heard noises. I don't hear any noise. I hear nothing. So I apologize if there was a loud noise for some of you, but I don't hear it. So maybe that could be something on your end. I don't know. But I found this very informative. I think that this is not over. This is certainly not over, and I think it's going to bleed into some other things. And I'm very excited to hear about the new Princess Diana book that he mentioned, Panorama Gate, something like that. He said, I think I'll have to look that up and like talk about it because yeah, that is very intriguing. Because yeah, I don't think Diana would be dead. She would not have not been in the situation that she was in had they not lied to her. And that to me is very heartbreaking, very heartbreaking. Okay, so thank you so much for being here, everyone. I hope you enjoyed my talk with Andrew Lowney on his book. I'm going to finish up the book and now with some information that I have gained from this talk that I've had with him. And I hope you all enjoyed my talk with Andrew Lowney. And I will see you in my video perhaps tomorrow or Sunday. All right. Have a great day. Thank you so much for being here, everyone. Bye.